Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
All of our guests today, including Ian Mendes in Ottawa, brought to you by our title sponsor, Able Auctions, ableauctions.ca. Ian Mendes, Vancouver guy. I think Ian went to McNair High School in Richmond. Working for the Athletic now in Ottawa. He's been based in Ottawa for several years now. The Senators have been sold to Michael Andlauer for close to $1 billion. And we thought we'd get Ian on the show to talk about that and about the Stanley Cup Final as well.
Yeah.
Ian, thanks for doing this, sir. How are you?
Hey, guys. Yeah. McNair Marlins class of 94.
94.
Oh, 94.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just a few
Young
years
pup.
after me. Dan Russell went to McNair as well.
He sure did. And 94, that was, the ultimate spring in Vancouver, was it not?
Oh, my gosh.
To grow up there and have that be my last year of high school, yeah, it was elite.
Yeah.
Elite.
Canucks Stanley Cup Final. Lions won the Grey Cup. 94.
Louis.
What a year. Ian, before we talk about the Senators and about hockey, just your reaction to the news today. You're in the business. To the news today about Bell cutting 1,300 jobs and getting rid of several stations across the country.
Yeah, it's tough, right? And both of you guys have been in this industry long enough to know that axe just swings without regard for talent, people's backgrounds, what their family situation might be. It's just, it feels so cold and calculated, right? And so to get off the phone with a couple of colleagues today and texting with them that have lost their jobs, and this even happened earlier this week. We lost some coworkers at the Athletic. It's just an awful time in the media industry, right? And it's difficult, and you have to.
We lose Ian. Oh, there he goes.
Oh, sorry. Did you guys got me? It's just so difficult because you know that this wave came today, and it's not the end of it. You're just waiting for the next one. That's what's upsetting.
I thought for a second there that you lost your job, Ian, that we're having technical difficulties. Okay, also, let's focus as we move ahead here. Stanley Cup Final. Canucks have been around for a long time. Senators, not as long as the Canucks, but much longer than the Vegas Golden Knights. What's the reaction in Ottawa, or just your reaction, to a team winning the Stanley Cup in its sixth season?
Well, in Ottawa in particular, there's the focus on Mark Stone, right? Because that was the guy who got away from Ottawa, who a lot of people thought when they traded him in 2019, guys, that Stone would be the potential captain in Ottawa. And you saw it last night. I think there was a lot of bittersweet feelings in Ottawa because you hear Gary Bettman say, Mark Stone, come and get the Stanley Cup. And you think that could have or should have been him in Ottawa at some point. So I think there was a little bit of frustration. But I think really when you look at this from Ottawa's perspective, when they traded Stone, that was really the start of the rebuild, or truly the final piece of, hey, we're really taking this and burning it to the ground. And you would have figured 4 years later, Ottawa would have been in the playoffs. And yeah, they're on an upward trajectory. But I think what's frustrating, and I'm sure for Vancouver fans too, is that look at Vegas basically started from scratch, have been to 2 Stanley Cup finals, 3 conference finals, and now have a cup. And these other franchises, Ottawa, Vancouver, I'm sure Calgary feels this way, some other franchises that have been around a long time and have long droughts, and think, how on earth could a team just be erected out of nothing in 2017, 2018 and end up with the Stanley Cup? It's really remarkable.
Moving on to the main reason we got you on the show, and that's the sale of the Ottawa Senators to Michael Andlauer. What can you tell us about him? And the reason he won the significantly large bidding war for the Senators, Ian.
Yeah, it's a great way of putting it, significantly large bidding war, because I don't think anybody would have thought a year ago that the Ottawa Senators would fetch in the neighborhood of $1 billion US. Like our understanding is this is about $950 million, and there's some room for this to maybe go down or up a little bit, but that's, I think, the feeling is that it's about $950 million. And so really why I think Michael Andlauer won this, guys, is I think if you go back to November, his name was actually one of the first to emerge. And before there was Ryan Reynolds, before there was Snoop, before there was The Weeknd, there was Michael Andlauer. And I always thought that this was the NHL's preferred guy. This is the safe choice. This is the guy that's known to them because he's a part owner of the Montreal Canadiens. So I really think that Andlauer got this because A, there's some baked-in familiarity with the NHL, but B, he finally got to the price point. In fact, I think if Michael Andlauer went to the NHL in November or at Christmas time and said, here's a check for $950, I think this process is done. But I think it took them months to kind of get him up to the level where they felt like they could sell this team.
Ian, we are seeing all over the world when these owners buy teams now, along with it comes the new rink, the new stadium, condos, malls, restaurants, all around a new facility. Where are you in Ottawa with a new facility?
Yeah, so this is going to be fascinating too, because I think Ottawa is one of only a handful of markets in the NHL, guys, that doesn't have a downtown rink. And you know this, look, you know this from your own experience in Vancouver. When that thing was at the P&E, it's totally different than going to downtown, right? Like now you go downtown and you can go to bars and restaurants and walk out and take the train, and it's just a different feeling. We don't have that in Ottawa. We have a suburban rink, and they have to change this. And I think this is going to be one of Michael Andlauer's first priorities, is building a downtown arena. Now, they do have a parcel of land set aside right now. There is an agreement in principle with the government here to build an arena at a site called LeBreton Flats, which is pretty close to downtown, close to Parliament Hill. But there's a lot of red tape with that, guys. This is government-controlled land. And the issue with that is, if the government controls the land, you're just leasing it. So it's not like you can just come in and you're going to own the land. You could do whatever you want. So there's a lot of factors at play here. I do think we're going to end up with a downtown arena at some point, but this is probably going to take another 4 or maybe 5 years to get hammered out.
Ian, let's talk a little bit. We're starting to hear new names. Is Pierre Dorion safe? We heard Steve Staios' name yesterday. Is there going to be a new GM in Ottawa? And what are you hearing on that front?
Yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it? And Steve Staios had a long relationship with Michael Andlauer in Hamilton. They built some championship caliber teams there. And I think there's some familiarity with Andlauer and Staios. I can see why people connect the dots. My colleague at Edmonton, Daniel Nugent-Bowman, actually asked Ken Holland about this yesterday and said, and because Steve Staios now works for the Edmonton Oilers. And Ken Holland was quick to say, I'll never stand in the way of somebody leaving. That he pointed out, I let Jim Nill walk to Dallas. I let Steve Yzerman walk to Tampa. If there's an opportunity for somebody to walk away to a promotion, I'm not going to stand in their way. So I thought that was interesting. So certainly I think that's on the radar. But the quirky thing here, guys, as you know, we're basically 2 weeks away from the NHL draft.
Right.
I don't think that Michael Andlauer, he doesn't have both hands on the steering wheel just yet, right? Like he doesn't fully own the team. So my guess is Pierre Dorion runs the draft. DJ Smith is still the coach. But beyond that, I don't know if we get into August where things are. But just the timing of this, and that's what's frustrating for Ottawa fans. They were hoping that this deal would be closed in May or April so that there would be some clarity in hockey ops. And if nothing else, I think it's pretty cloudy going into the draft.
Okay, and very quickly, what's going to happen with Alex DeBrincat?
Ooh, this is what's really fascinating, because in any other scenario, you could probably tell DeBrincat, here's what we want to do with you, but he doesn't know who the owner is, right? And so he's got 1 year left on his deal. He's got a qualifying offer at $9 million. This is exactly the Matthew Tkachuk situation from last year. Tkachuk at least went to the Flames and said, move me, it's better for everybody. I would suspect that maybe that's the path for DeBrincat right now, only because I don't think he can commit to Ottawa in the next few weeks because of the uncertainty. So my guess is you probably see DeBrincat get traded. But again, if Dorion is in control here, you want to make sure that he's making a move that's palatable to Michael Andlauer. So okay, it's just a weird situation, and DeBrincat is the most pressing on-ice issue for Ottawa, which I think you'd like to get that solved at some point that week of the draft.
As we let you go, Ian, by the way, you're a Vancouver. It was way better when it was on the P&E grounds, when it was the old Coliseum. Come on, not even close.
Come on.
Oh, come on, guys. I mean, the great memories there for me, Linden and Ronning and Courtnall and Bure. That was my era of the Canucks for sure. But the downtown rink is better. Come on.
No. More edge at the Coliseum.
Yeah.
Ian, thanks for this. Appreciate it. We'll get you back on soon.
Anytime, guys. Thanks so much for having me.
Ian Mendes from The Athletic in Ottawa.